So when you're discussing a settlement agreement, it's very important when you set out the terms of settlement in writing to define particularly what the money is being paid for. This is important not only for tax but also for employment insurance repayment. If the settlement is strictly for lost income resulting from termination of employment, it will be taxable and you will have to repay to EI the amount of EI benefits referable to the severance period. So if you settled a case, for example, for 6 months and you received employment insurance benefits or for 6 months less 2 weeks because the first 2 weeks aren't paid, then you have to repay to EI the insurance benefits you received for that time period. The settlement that you receive in that example of 6 months is also insurable income. So if that was the settlement period, on conclusion of that 6 month period, you're entitled to start a new claim for EI benefits. So if you're unemployed at that time, you still have a second claim you can make for those EI benefits. If you're making the settlement, say a year after termination of employment and you receive that, in that example, 6 months, then you can claim an offsetting entitlement and you won't have to repay the EI benefits you received. When you're drafting the minutes of settlement, if the payment is referable to aggravated damages or punitive damages, then those payments are not taxable, no obligation to withhold tax on those payments, and also there's no obligation to repay EI for those sums of money referenced in the minutes of settlement. Also, if their payment in the minutes of settlement is recognized as being for the loss for giving up the right of reinstatement, so if, for example, there's a $60,000 settlement and 20 is referable to this is for giving up the right of reinstatement, then that payment is also not subject to EI clawback. Now, all these issues have to be set out fully in writing. You obviously will need legal advice to be able to do this properly. And also in the minutes of settlement, it should specifically state what payments are being subject to tax, withholding, and what is not. So if, for example, there's a 3 month severance payment, clearly lost income that's subject to tax withholding, and the minutes of settlement should specifically state the aggravated damages are not subject to tax at source or the punitive damages or whatever may be the case. And similarly, as I mentioned, in human rights cases, payments for emotional suffering are not subject to tax and not subject to EI holdbacks.